I made this entire viral reel using just Claude Code and Remotion. These types of videos get millions of views, and usually to create them, you needed to have peak After Effects knowledge or hire a skilled motion designer for hundreds of dollars. In this video, you'll learn all the key techniques to recreate this for yourself. You don't need to know After Effects or spend hours keyframing. All it takes are just a few prompts. And this skill is in high demand, so mastering these types of motion graphics can open doors to new clients and well-paid projects. So stick around and watch the tutorial till the end.
In 2000, a small startup called Netflix pitched Blockbuster to buy them out. They asked for $50 million. Blockbuster laughed them out of the room. So Netflix built the opposite. No late fees, no stores, customer first. 10 years later, Blockbuster closed 1,000 stores and declared bankruptcy. Today, Netflix drives $45 billion a year in revenue. The biggest paid streaming service on earth, the most expensive no in history.
So the first thing we do, guys, before anything else, we have to make sure we have a good storyboard. And the storyboard rides almost entirely on your voiceover. So you have to make sure that you get a good voiceover in place before you do anything. It's all about selecting the type of story you want to tell. In my case over here, I decided to write my script on Netflix. So this is a simple storyboard that I have. These are my voice lines. I try to keep it very simple, no more than 5 or 6 voice lines. And each voice line is about 5 seconds. So you get about 25 to 30 seconds of footage right after. And it's very simple. You don't have to complicate this. So if you see over here in 2000, a small startup called Netflix pitched Blockbuster to buy them out. And then we have the next bit where they're asking for $50 million. Blockbuster said no. So Netflix built the opposite. 10 years later, Blockbuster obviously closed down. And that's about it. We're just working with 6 voice lines for 6 different scenes. So once we have the voice lines, this is where I prompt Claude Code to give me the choreography in each scene. And again, you'll have to go back and forth for this because sometimes Claude's not going to give you the best scene or the best choreography, but sometimes it does a really good job. Like this one over here, for example, the boss stands before a dead Blockbuster, the shot punches in with him and the store scaling together. Now, some of the other ones, I just went back and forth and this is what I came up with. But once you have this locked, what Claude Code can do is it'll give you like an asset sheet as well. It'll give you like an asset list of the types of photos that you would need. And remember, guys, just keep it simple, right? There is no need to tell an original story because they say that every good story has already been told and great creators aren't more original. They just retell a good story better. Moving on to the asset sheet, these are the assets we collect once we have the voice lines and the scenes ready. And you can see like in each scene, there's maybe like 4 different assets. There's a wallpaper background over here. There's a Netflix HQ. And then on the foreground, there's a character. So that same principle follows through on all the other scenes over here. Every one of them has some sort of background and then a foreground image. And finally, what really makes this video pop is that every scene needs to have some sort of film treatment. So I've got a film grain over here. I've got a grunge wash. I've got scan lines, a vignette, and also the corner blur. Now, all of these assets, they are linked in my free Skool community, so do go check them out. So where do these assets come from? Now, this is something a lot of you asked in my last video, and it doesn't really matter, to be honest. I mean, they can come from Google Images. You can generate them on GPT-2 through Replicate API, or you can even get it from like other editors' asset packs as well. So it doesn't matter where it comes from, as long as you've collected all of these assets that help you tell your story. But what makes a viral reel stand out is the way it's animated and the way it's choreographed. And then next we move on to setting up our Remotion project. Now over here, I have my prompt, which says set up a Remotion project for a vertical documentary reel, 1080 by 1920 at 30 FPS. And I'm also giving it some motion helpers like posterize time, boil, and a ping pong entrance as well. So once we have the Remotion project set up, you can ask Claude Code to start your Remotion server. And the next step is to create the film look, essentially. So over here, I'm saying build the film treatment look, and I'm giving it the scan lines, and I'm giving the exact specs as well, 1.6 pixel black line at 16%. So I'm giving it a texture sandwich, so 2 different types of textures at different brightness and contrast. So I'm giving it a vignette, color grade, and also a gate weave as well. And that's what makes the scene go from looking something like this, which is just a digital image, to looking something like this, which is a lot more cinematic and a lot more easier on the eyes. So once we have the Remotion and your engine set up, the next thing is to go to scene 1. So this is my prompt for scene 1. And you can see we're saying a slow push, zoom through from frame 46, and then we're doing a weld and a detach. So weld and detach is what this looks like. So if you look in the beginning over here, this gold frame is welded to the image behind that. And then once it zooms in, it detaches at a certain point. So one thing to remember here, guys, is that you need to remember which frame you're on. Because instead of telling Claude Code, oh, go and change this at these many seconds or whatnot, it's much easier to reference the frame. If you go to your Remotion Studio over here, so this is the frame number. So when we look here, for example, when we look at frame number 58, all the way to frame number 66, we can tell Claude Code, do a motion blur effect from frame 56 to 67. We can give it a range and you'll see that blur happen exactly where you mention it. Instead of going over and over and saying, okay, right after this happens, or sending screenshots and whatnot, it just makes it much easier when you reference the exact frame number. And you can find that frame number here in your Remotion Studio. So just something to bear in mind. So frame by frame, this is what it looks. So we have the golden frame expanding, and then we have that motion blur in place, and then we have the first scene. And what really makes the scene come alive, because at the end of the day, they're just pictures plastered together. Now, the one on the left is the same thing, the same scene as the one on the right, but the one on the right feels a bit more alive because you see the cloud is drifting in the background. There's a very subtle sort of drift with the character itself. It's called a character boil. And then the entire scene, even the background, the Netflix building, there's a very slight shift. That's the difference between an alright animation to a really well done animation. Alright, so moving on to scene 2, we have the boss rise up. So we've got some cigar smoke going on here, we've got some props, and then some captions as well. So in order to make the scene come alive, you can download these stock videos of smoke or explosion particles and whatnot, and you can layer it into your composition. So when you put it in, you're gonna have to screen blend that. So once you apply a screen blend, you see that it's still not done because there's still that subtle sort of background over here, and that smoke really cuts off around the edges as well. But then what we do is we lift the grays just a little bit by giving it more contrast, and then we crush them, and we also feather the sides over here. So once we do that, it just looks like the smoke is just rising into the air and just dissipating. And guys, you want to really add like these sort of effects because it just makes your image look all the more better. Also, another thing to remember is you want to make sure that you're fine-tuning all of your scenes. Like this scene, for example, over here, you can see the Netflix logo is off. And then yeah, so his eyes are off as well. So what we can do is we can stop at where the Netflix logo is. So I'm just gonna pull that logo up just a little bit so it looks like it's resting on his hands. Then I'm also gonna pull up that diamond as well. Just shift it a little bit so it looks like it's marking that logo. Let's play that once again. All right, and that's what it looks like. Okay, so we still need to fix his eyes. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raise this just a little bit over here and do the same for the right eye as well. Okay, that looks really nice. Let's just give it one more check. Okay, amazing. And guys, this is why it's important to build your reel scene by scene. You don't want the entire thing in like one big scene, because what happens is when something breaks in scene 1 and you try to fix it, something else might break in scene 6. So do it scene by scene, and then what you do is you merge all of them into one master reel. Okay, so now for the next scene, this is an easy one. It's basically just a bunch of newspapers just flying in. And just looking at frame by frame, it's just like one newspaper coming after another. And the magic here is that you have to stagger and vary the direction of each of your flying in newspapers so it looks a lot more organic rather than it just looking like everything is rushed. Moving to scene 4, and this is where we're going to be using a parallax animation. So this is what a parallax animation is. So your background is moving at or zooming in at a certain speed, but then your character is zooming in a lot faster. So what makes this scene alive, guys, is that you can look at that tiny little shadow there right next to his leg. It just makes it look like he's actually standing on the ground. And the way how you want to do it is essentially you're just duplicating the entire image and then you are projecting it on the floor. So you can also blacken that image and then you can give it a bit of a skew, and that just makes it look like his shadow. It's just a bit of animation trickery. Okay, and then for scene 5, and this is the important one, we have quite a few things happening over here. So the first thing is we have an overhead lamp, and then we also have like a cache highlight as well. And this is what that scene looks like. Now this entire scene is static. Now what really makes a scene come alive is when you, say for example, you can turn on the light over here, and then you can swing the lamp as well. And that's what gives it that really nice subtle motion. And this is really easy to do in Claude Code compared to After Effects. It's basically just 2 lines of code essentially. And you don't even need to know the code. You just give the exact position and the frame of the lamp and you tell Claude Code to create a fake sort of lamp lighting effect. And then the next is also the cache highlight on the desk. So essentially what we're doing is we're passing all of these parameters like a sepia, some saturation, and also a hue rotate as well. And this is what it looks like. So if you just hold it, it just looks staticky and not too nice. But then if you flicker it, for example, you can hold keyframes in Remotion. And if you flicker that, it just looks really nice. And that's what it looks like frame by frame. And at the end, you'll get a scene that looks like this with a bit of motion blur and with a bit of punch in. Amazing. All right, so moving on to the last scene. Essentially, we're just reusing another scene and we're just swapping the character. So if you remember, we're just swapping the character from that Blockbuster scene. And this is what that looks like. So the punch in, the animation is all the same. We're just swapping in the character and the background. That's it. And we're adding like a nice little touch, which is like that wagging little red hand over there. And that's what that looks like. And this is the formula for that finger wag. Again, you don't have to memorize these formulas. You literally just tell Claude Code like an actual like no, and it'll just do it for you. And once all of this is done, guys, one of the most important steps is to also do the sound. Now I've used the 11 Labs API to do the voiceover.
Called Netflix pitched Blockbuster to buy them out.
On top of that, we have a few sound effects as well. So all of these again were generated by 11 Labs API. And finally, we have a music track, and that pretty much makes your entire reel that looks like this.
In 2000, a small startup called Netflix pitched Blockbuster to buy them out. They asked for $50 million. Blockbuster laughed them out of the room.
And that's the entire reel. 6 scenes, 1 voiceover, and no After Effects. And once you've built this as a project, you can use this to recreate hundreds of other reels. No more paying for expensive motion designers or spending hours keyframing in After Effects. I put all of the prompts and the asset files in my free Skool community. The link is in the description. And guys, these types of videos take a lot of time to produce. So if you really enjoyed it, then drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me make more of these kind of videos. But until then, I'll see you in the next one.